Welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode number 69. This is reviewing a brand new Super Sentai. And this one, believe it or not, came out the very year I was born. Choujuu Sentai Liveman. Yes, the first Super Sentai to have a blue female ranger. The first one where the Zords are frickin' animals. Yes, where the Red Ranger, who is known as Red Falcon, pilots a Falcon Zord. Well, basically Red Falcon. The Blue Ranger pilots a Dolphin Zord, and the Yellow Ranger pilots a Lion Zord, known as Ground Lion. There's also Water Dolphin and Red Falcon. Yes. Now, this started back in February of 1988. Yes, roughly. It was February 27th, 1988. Roughly about almost 2 months, a little over a month before I was born. Yay! As a matter of fact, episode 9, which we'll discuss in the very next episode, I was born the day before this episode aired. I looked it up. That's all I kind of know. Alright, if you're curious though what the heck these Rangers look like, alright. I hope that this is not giving copyright. Here they are. The Liveman. And yeah, that's their suits. Like, not bad suits. The top three there, those are our Red Ranger. No, those are our Rangers. We have Megazord, that's her. Yusuke, the one in the middle. And Joe, that's his name. If you're wondering about this particular person right here on my pinky finger that is Colin. Yes, that is her name. She is a robot designed by their mentor, who was a professor. Yes, he appeared initially in the opening 2 episodes of this thing. His name is, if I can get the right here, Dr. Hoshi. Yep, he's one who designed their morphers, basically their braces. He also helped them design their Zords, and he also designed their base, including Colin herself. But a lot of the air stuff, they pretty much designed their own, because the way the series is, basically, we first start out 2 years prior to present day, where during a nominated class, where it's revealed, oh yeah, we're going to basically discuss stuff, building a space station to help people, and then 3 individuals, yes, 3, who goes by the name of Kenji Tetsuya, who was a friend, who was a friend of Yusuke. Ri Sadara, which, yeah, it was around, and Go Amara. Yep. These 3 apparently did not want to get involved with whatever plan. Like, okay, we're basically going to do science for pure genius sake. So, they left. And then we see a very strange symbol, per se. Yes. Oh, by the way, that's actually part of the Megazord, which is known as the Live Robo. Yep, really cool looking Megazord. I always got handed for basically the people who designed this from Toei. Let's see if I can find a better picture of this thing. I'm trying to find it here. Alright. This is what the original robot looked like when it first showed up. Now, the lion makes up the main torso along with the arms, the falcon makes up the head and the back, and the dolphin makes up the legs. That's your Megazord for you. Yep. And this Megazord, well, this was the original Megazord that they had in this particular series before they switched out for a different one. Mainly because of the fact they, well, got new, let's just say they got new Zords. Yep. Now, as for the villains per se, they're known as Brain Army Volt. Oh, and they're led by this guy, Great Professor Bias. And this is him. Yeah, this is the suit that he wears the entire time. I hate when it does that. Yeah, that's the suit he wears, and that's our main villain. Yes, a human. Not some alien, not a robot, a human. Which thinking, oh, that's interesting. Now this is Dr. Kemp, aka Tedrou. Yeah. This is what he, well, not exactly, that's not exactly what he looked like originally. No, he changed his look a couple times. Originally he looked like a normal guy. In the case of Dr. Octor, I think his name is, he had this goofy tie that he wore originally. And then he, by the way, Beauty Beast Kemp. This is what he looks like in his monster form. Yes, seriously, that's what he looks like. Dr. Mazina. This is your femme fatale, this beautiful woman. I gotta admit, she, along with Megami, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, the Blue Ranger. Yeah, Megami. Yep, that is who we have. By the way, the first episode of this thing is called Friends, Why Didn't You Do This? Yep. And here's your other villain, Dr. Abler. And yes, he dressed like this before he transformed into a monster. Yep. And this is what he did. Roughly about 3 episodes in, he transformed into this monstrosity. Yep, and he maintains his look throughout the rest of his appearances, from what I read. And from what I can tell anyways. Their base is a floating space station known as the Brain Base. Yep. That is your base for you. Yeah. A literal space station. Yeah, that's it. That's your space station, which, come think of it, this is probably the very first Super Sentai to actually where the villains are based, well, they are technically based in space. They're based, well, let's just say on a space station. Don't worry, I will be getting to the story soon. I just want to show the various stuff related to, yeah, and, oh, let me give a look at Colin before I show you off here. Yeah, that's Colin for you. Yep, that's her. Well, she looks like someone who looks like she's Chinese, based on hair buns. I mean, appearance-wise, reminds me of Tenten from Naruto. So basically, the premise after the whole thing with the not turning down the whole thing of Naval Space Station, they sort of in a way get to join the organization as Brain Vault. Meanwhile, a couple friends of the 3 main Rangers, who their names are Tedrou and let's see if I can find them here. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention about Liveman. It was, at the time, and well, right now, anyways, it is the final one of the original era for Super Sentai. The excuse me. Uh, this was the last season under the Showa era of Super Sentai, because starting with Turbo Ranger, the very next one, became part of the Hensai era. Yep. Yeah, the characters who died, there's this Mari Atari and Tedrou Yuno, which, yeah, their relatives basically become played later on. There's also Gurna Gosh, who's basically a robot who basically his job is just to show up and enlarge monsters. That's simply what his job is. And we have monsters known as brain monsters. No, seriously, that's what they're called. Brain monsters. Well, brain beasts per se. And here's something you might find interesting about them. The first one does not pop up in the first episode like other ones did. Oh no. The very first episode they pop up is episode 2. And you're thinking, really? Episode 2 is the first time they show up? Yeah, seriously. Episode 2 is the first time they show up. And here are your monsters for the first 8 episodes. We have Disconnect Brain, otherwise known as Scatter Brain, Virus Brain, Transmission Brain, Engine Brain, Time Brain. Yeah, this actually plays a role. Yeah, there's no monster in episode 7. Yeah, they did this where like episode 1 didn't have one, 7 didn't have a monster. Let's see. Aside from those 2 episodes, I'm just trying to see here. Was there any other? Oh, yes. Episodes 28 to 30, no monster. And let's see. I think after that was the last time officially they didn't have a monster. So, basically, what was like 2 years prior to Liveman per se, and what you could possibly say that took place prior to this? I would say this probably takes place during events of Flashman. Yes, because I mentioned it's been like 2 years. Like, oh, by the way, the grunts are those jammers. Yeah, jammers, which are simply guys in these weird-looking suits, and basically they're robots. That's simply what these things are. So, after they, of course, they have the 2 friends of the main 3 try out these new suits, and they work really well. And of course, they try them on. And then, of course, we have this gigantic spaceship that lands down on the ground, which looks like a giant bird. And, of course, three of these 2 students in this school. By the way, they mentioned this school is like they're training like future, like scientific stuff. Basically, it seems like a pretty reasonable school. And it's on this island. Yep. On this island in the middle of nowhere. Like Training for the Future, apparently this place is sponsored by the UN. And then, of course, when they have these people leave, the 2 people wearing the suits get murdered by the 3 former friends. They shoot them with their futuristic laser gun. I'm like, where the heck did they get that thing? You could think that maybe Bias might give it to them, but no, there's no mention of him giving it to them. And here's a little fun fact while I'm seeing for this. Like, that ship does not period after this. They just... They didn't... From what I read, there is a mention that these people use like shuttles to go from back between the brain base and Earth. And they show a brain base. I gotta say, like, the interior looks fantastic. I love the interior. Where it's like this, where you have Professor Bias in the first scene. He's like standing on the symbol of a vault, and behind him is like this window. Now you might ask, like, does the series explain where the heck he got the space station, or who the heck Great Professor Bias is? Well, from what research I did, apparently this is not explained until toward the end of this particular thing, which I will get to when I get to it. So they arrive there, and then, of course, these 3 spend the next 2 years training under him, like studying all his techniques. And the 3 surviving Rangers trained under the principal. And then 2 years later, we have this massive graduation ceremony. We have this Academy ship that they've been teasing, mentioned in the episode. They're going to go to space. And like everything's so hunky-dory. And then we see also on the 3 main people who become the Rangers, we see already they have their morphers. Yeah, they've already got them. And you're thinking, wait, did we just skip a scene where they got their morphers? Because generally, like every Sentai generally has a scene like this. Well, my guess is they probably got it probably not long after, or at least some point during a 2-year time skip. And this is when they built the Zord, so they actually have this thing. So then we have the massive attack by the Vault, where they actually destroy the school, and leaving only like 4 survivors. Basically, the 3 people become Liveman and a pregnant woman. Yeah, they're the only survivors. Well, the principal does actually survive, but he dies in the very next episode, saving a pregnant woman. So basically, it's about this tax. Of course, they run and hide, and they rescue the principal, who actually somehow survives. But of course, he later dies. And it mentions about the whole thing. We have to combine the 3. Mentioning about the Zords, which the Zords make a first appearance in the very first episode, but they combined episode 2 thanks to floppy disk of all things. You're thinking, floppy disk? You mean those big black square things? No! Apparently floppy disk, apparently the way this show works is basically like regular CDs. Their shape of the way their shape is, it seems like it's the same shape they use for the GameCube, except these are bigger. And you're thinking, really? This is what they use to transform into their robo? Yeah, they do. And they bring out like this sword and a shield. And when they have the monster battles, they actually, like the first one they have goes by pretty quickly. It's like a few punches, bring out the sword, and they just run right and slice thing in half, and that's it. So episode 2 is when they introduced what was his name? Gunnar Gash. Yeah. No, it's him basically because of his middle footsteps, because he's a robot. So basically, every episode, per se, each of the 3 former friends get a chance to unleash their monster for an episode. In the case of the very first one, well, when they come back and they reveal their transformation, now, Maru basically is transformed into a human cyborg, where she maintained her beauty, despite the fact her arms are cybernetic. Like, oh look, a finger gun! Yes, even thinking, a finger, mean this? No! I mean, a literal gun replacing her fingers. And then we have the arm gun, basically a gun in the middle of a freaking palm. I'm like, really? And that's the arm cannon. Yeah, seriously. I'm like, what the heck? And, by the way, Dr. Orbler, when he transforms into his monster, he does in episode 3. It was basically an experiment with his virus stuff. The one thing that at least got handed to these particular, these 3 people, is that their inventions are actually, they work, surprisingly, because they're all 3 are geniuses. With the exception of what happened in episode 8, per se. Yep. So, by the end of episode 2, where they get the Grand Tortoise, which is their base, and they have to swim to it because it's underwater. I should point out, though, not the first Super Sentai base where it's underwater. Big Buster, which I believe it was the base for Bad Fever J, that was underground. At least it was underwater. And it was kind of the same thing for Go-Go 5, where their base was underwater too. But here's the thing about this underwater base for Grand Tortoise. It's mobile. Yeah, it can move all over the ground, no problem. And you have Colin driving the damn thing. Yeah. So, of course, you have her basically acting as an assistant to the Rangers, while there's technically no mentor around. Their mentor got killed off in episode 2, which I thought that was an interesting move. Killing off the mentor in episode 2 of all things. Yes. By the way, their fighters they have, which they show up several times, They look like giant scorpions without the legs. No, seriously, they look like giant freaking scorpions. So, the whole thing with each of these episodes, the basis of various things, like one's a virus, which the whole point of that was transform Dr. Oberon into his monster form, which he stinks for that. And that was the only thing he succeeded. The whole episode was transforming this because monster was destroyed. At least succeeded at transforming himself into a monster. Okay. And it's also the introduction of the dummy robots. Yeah, this actually is something that would probably, from what I can tell, does come to play. Yeah, this is of course by Mirror, who actually has one of our dummy robots disguise himself as a worker at a gas plant unleashing laughing gas. But they figure out this guy actually is a fake due to perfume. No, seriously, perfume is the reason why they had to beat this guy. Now, for the engine one, this one I thought was quite interesting because this actually ties into something that happened in the pilot episode. Yeah, the younger brother of the one of two friends who were killed in the pilot episode. Yeah, he shows up and he wants Yusuke to build his brother's car. And he does. They do a pretty good job with it, but its parts are destroyed. But he's like, these plans are good. I'll build a new vehicle. Basically, we have Live Cougar, which is a Jeep with basically a turn gun on it. No, seriously, but it's a nice looking vehicle. And they do show off to the kid. He basically is not all that impressed. He really wanted to use it for a car, but hey, at least they're using his brother's design. And he does, from what I can tell, give his permission to use it. And of course, Colin helps them build the damn thing, which is quite cool. It's interesting, though, you can probably consider this to be the first Super Sentai where the Rangers actually build their own stuff. It's not like the mentor builds everything for them. Oh, no. They built themselves, which you probably think that's interesting. Yep. Now, yes, the first episode is kind of a loosely connected two-parter. 6 and 7 are a definite two-parter. Which, by the way, has second appearance of Live Cougar. Which have Colin drive the damn thing. Sorry about that. I keep blowing my nose. Yeah, you have Colin driving the damn thing, which I thought that was interesting. Well, she helped build it, so of course she has the right to drive it. And it's one of those, few times where you see her outside the base. At least you see her on screen for more than a few minutes, like some other mentors tend to be. Yes, unlike previous mentors, or sometimes they don't really, all these people who are supporting characters, when they don't get a lot of screen time. Usually their main screen time is mostly just sending out the carrier, which from what I've read, this was the last Sentai into Operator to use a carrier to transport the Zords. Yeah, well, they actually use a carrier Zord to transport the Zords. The one here is called Machine Buffalo. That's what this one is called. And you have it where Rithok is stored on top, and in the main mouth of the thing is basically the Dolphin and the Lion Zord. Well, they call it Ground Lion, but basically it's the Lion Zord. So in the case of two-part of 6 and 7, it mostly involves Dr. Oberon inventing a time monster. Yes, a time monster. To bring a dinosaur from the past to present day. Basically, the monster Goad. Now, I should point out, though, if you ever get a chance to see these two episodes, you probably notice that the special effects on the dinosaurs don't look as good as they do in Jurassic Park, per se. The first Jurassic Park, not the sequels. I mean, the special effects are okay. I get the fact it's guys in suits, but yeah, it kind of seems as though the person designed Goan's suit may have designed Godzilla's son. Yeah, probably. So, the reason why there's no monster in episode 7, because Goan transforms to a transforms giant size. Though he's able to transform back to normal by the end of the episode, though he eventually does die. And the kid, who his name is Kisuke, I don't think he appears after this. Nothing I can think of, no. And 8 basically is about rage. Everybody so angry at everything. Yeah, everybody being angry at everything. Like being stuck at train tracks, being stuck in traffic, stuff being expensive, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, and though in the case Dr. Kemp, he does get chastised by, well, the whole thing, because the whole thing about rage, and basically with this episode, it's a good character piece, this one. Mainly because of the fact, I think in this one, they kind of in a way get over the revenge that they have. Oh, okay. That was episode 9. No, it was actually episode 8, the anger one. Yeah, I was born day before this episode. I thought it was episode 9. My mistake in that part. So yes, born before episode 8. Yeah, it's interesting the fact that I left off of that one. Yep. I gotta say, I'm thoroughly enjoying Liveman. It's got great cinematography. Yeah, that's one thing I at least got give high praise for. The cinematography is really good. The special effects are actually pretty good for a Super Sentai, for a show came out back in the late 1980s. Yeah, it still holds up surprisingly. The suits look good. I think like the only weakness that so far I've seen from it is just the dinosaur effects. Yeah, they're okay. Yeah, and of course, great Robo. Yep. So yeah, that's episode review. Next view is going to be more Liveman. Yep. You'll find how many episodes I'm going to do. Probably about 4. Okay. Next video. Bye.